Hello everyone. We'll begin this first session, talk session of the day, named Pitch Perfect, Vocal Diversity of Species and Populations. We have the pleasure to have three speakers today. There is a little change in the program. So we'll begin with Julie Bosca, then Christina Day, and Florian Fournier. So now we can welcome Julie Bosca. She will present her work about how females, as territorial as males, vocal performance and aggressive motivation in European robins.
Okay, hi everyone. So my name is Julie Bosca, and I'm going to present you my work that I'm doing during the first axis of my PhD, about European robins and about more specifically females, and if they are as territorial as males. So the global context of my study is vocal communication in birds. You might know that song plays a key role in social interactions, such as sexual selection, social cohesion, territorial defense, and so on. And that vocal production can be submitted to a certain set of constraints. Those constraints can come from the vocal truncatus, from the body condition, genetics, for instance. And what we define here as vocal performance is the fact that some individuals sing better than others. For instance, when they sing closer to the production limits of their species, their populations, we say that they reach a high vocal performance. So some songs are of high quality and some are of low quality. Some studies have shown a link between a high vocal performance and a high competitivity, meaning that individuals that produce good songs are high quality individuals, more competitive or stuff like this. And so we say that vocal performance can be a honest signal of competitivity. Vocal production and vocal performance have been studied in many species, but almost exclusively in males. This is because there is a bias in published data towards the study of males, and that comes from the fact that a majority of species that were studied breed in the northern hemisphere, and many species there have only males that sing. But nowadays, some studies focus on female compared to male birdsong, and there is more and more evidence for female birdsong to be widespread and salient. Still, very little is known concerning female birdsong, and this is why here I am focusing on female vocal performance. So for my study, I focus on a little bird that I think you know, the European robin. Why this species? Because, well, both males and females sing during winter. So I'm going to show you the spectrogram of a bird. Maybe now you are familiar with spectrograms. So here is the song of a male. So you can see that the song of the robin varies a lot. There is very little consistency, and they basically invent new songs, new elements very often. So here is a male. As you can see, it can vary in length, in frequency. All right. And here is the song of a female. So this is one song, then another one. And as you can see, some are short, some are longer. All right. Also, this bird is good for us because it is widespread in Europe, and it is also territorial. And this is important for us because the context of our study is territoriality. As you know, song can be in territorial species the first step before a physical aggression, and it can signal that a territory is occupied. And here we differentiate two types of song. So first, the spontaneous song that is produced when the bird is alone with only known neighbors. And we will compare it to the provoked song. So this is the song that is produced in response to an intrusion when someone is in the territory. And our hypothesis here is that it is very important in that context for a bird to show its aggressive motivation. This is my place, get out. And this is why we expect them to reach a higher vocal performance, the best they can, in fact, in this situation, because they have to show how strong they are. So in European robins, during spring, male and female of a couple share a territory, and they take care of the offspring and so on. But after the breeding season, so during winter, they will separate, and both of them will sing to defend their exclusive individual territory against all the other robins. So this is why we expect similar selection pressures to apply on individuals of both sexes. So that makes winter an ideal context to study, to compare male and female song. So our question here is, do female robins, just as males, modify their vocal performance in the context of a territorial intrusion? So to do that, we studied individuals in two populations in France, in Ile-de-France. Our birds were captured. We marked them with individual colored rings, so we can differentiate them in the wild and know who we are recording. We also measured them. Then we took a little blood sample to genetically sex them, because we do not know, we cannot differentiate males from females in the wild. And then we recorded them. So first spontaneously, without any intruder in the territory, and then we provoked an intrusion by simulating an intruder with a song. So we put a high speaker in the territory, and we recorded the response. And then I'm going to explain very quickly how we calculate the vocal performance. So to do that, we use two proxies, vocal gap deviation and sound density. So basically, vocal gap deviation is based on the fact that to produce a high-pitched note or a low-pitched note, the bird has to rearrange its vocal tract, and to do that takes time. So as you can see in the robin song, the frequency varies a lot, and the gaps between the notes vary a lot too. And so, for instance, you take this song, and we will focus on the gap in between the notes. And what we measure is the time they take to go from the frequency, the end frequency of one note, to the beginning of the next one. And basically, here, for instance, this one is quite easy to produce because the bird takes its time to change the note, and the frequency gap between the one note and the other one is not that big. So this is easier to produce than this one, for instance, where the bird has to go from a very low-pitched note to a very high one in a very short time. So this is more performant for us than this one. So this is a low performance gap, and this is a high performance one, and we do that for all the gaps in a song. And then we have sound density, which is a bit more easy to understand. So it's just basically the total duration of the song compared to the cumulative note duration, which means basically it's the constraints we are studying is breathing in between notes. So the bird has to breathe in between the notes, and the more rapidly he can do it, the better it is. So here, for instance, you have a good one and a bad song. Here, the bird produced a lot of elements, and here not so much. So yeah, and then we do statistics. So very quickly, we just run a model with the context, the sex, and other variables. All right. So our results were this. So we studied the vocal gap deviation for males and females in both spontaneous and provoked context for each one of them. And this is what we found. So we found an increase for almost all the individuals in vocal gap deviation in both males and females between spontaneous and provoked song. So when we provoked an intrusion, all the birds almost increased their vocal gap deviation. And this is similarly in males and females. And concerning sound density, we found the same results. So individuals, when they were during a territorial intrusion, they increased their sound density, so they produced better songs. And here again, similarly in males and females. And we found other effects, but I can talk to you about that later. All right, so our interpretation of this is that European robins increase their vocal performance, they increase the quality of the song when they are territorially challenged. And this is true in both males and females. Males and females similarly increase the vocal performance. So those birds are submitted to similar pressures, as I said, as they have to defend their territories. And they produce similar responses, which is in favor of songbird, having evolved under social selection rather than sexual selection only. So it means that maybe it's the competition over ecological resources such as food, protection, stuff like that, instead of only sexual selection that acted on the evolution of song in this species. And this is in favor of female song being ancestral and salient. So important to study also. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you. We have time for a few questions, if some of you want. Just a reminder that you have to go in the microphone to ask your question. Yes.
Hi. So thank you for the talk. It was very interesting. I wanted to know if you're planning on following those birds to see if their performance is gonna, the fact that they're increasing their performance is gonna be, the quality of the performance is gonna be similar to the one they use while they are breeding, and so when they have to have a good performance, I guess, also?
Okay, yes, it's very interesting. In fact, we have another study going on where we will compare the winter song to the spring song. So we are going to compare, so during spring only males sing, so we are going to compare male song during winter when they are only territorial, we think, to spring song when they try to attract females. And yeah, we will compare that. So we will see if the same song features are interesting or if the vocal performance is the same and stuff like that.
Thank you.
Questions?
Hi, thanks for the fantastic talk. I was wondering, maybe I lost it. During the playback, you matched the sex. So for female, the provoked song was from a female, and from the male, a male, or you even try?
No, in fact, we also checked if the sex of the playback we use is has also an effect on the response. Mm-hmm. So to do that, we used 2 stimuli per bird, one male, one female, and in a balanced order. And interestingly, we found no effects of the sex of the playback on the performance. Mm-hmm. So that means we interpret that as males and females are perceived as equally threatening by both males and females. So a robin, mm-hmm. no matter the sex, is very threatening for a territorial bird.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Thanks.
Have you explored if the syntax changes in these songs or they are stereotyped? Because I think that will also involve the vocal performance.
We would love to, but maybe you've seen the song, how it looks like. Yes. It's a total mess. They invent every time. Yes. There is no stereotypy. We have a few birds that tend to have similar song structures, we think, that we recognize between one song and another, but no, they completely invent every time, and there is no good relevant repertoire in robins that we can use. We don't really know about the song structure, so yeah, we can't do that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, Julie.
Thank you.
So now we are welcoming Christiana Day, who is going to talk about the use of machine learning and dynamic time warping to categorize a dataset of bottlenose dolphin whistles.
Can I leave it there? Yes. Can I take the notes away?
Sorry?
Can I not have that, or? Oh, what have I done? Nope. Okay, no, it's fine. Don't worry. Hello, everybody. I'm Rosie Day from the University of St. Andrews, and I'm going to present to you the work that we did on the use of machine learning and dynamic time warping to categorize large data sets of bottlenose dolphin whistles. So a vocal repertoire, which we've been hearing a lot, is a catalogue of all the sound types a species, group, or population produces. And in dolphins, they produce echolocation clicks, burst pulses, and whistles. A whistle repertoire is all the different whistle types a species produces, and this is groups of whistles that have the same specific time and frequency modulation, or contour, which you can see as a spectrogram on the screen. Assessing the whistle repertoires between different species can help us distinguish between species in acoustic recordings, which can be very useful for the large amount of passive acoustic monitoring that is occurring in our oceans. However, past research, when comparing within species and between species, have focused solely on acoustic parameters, such as mean frequency and mean duration. However, if you focus only on these parameters, you lose quite a lot of information. And we know that the frequency modulation pattern of a whistle is important for dolphins, as this carries the information. So if you only focus on the parameters and not the modulation contours, you lose some of the information that might be important to the animal. However, when looking at repertoires, there are challenges in that, firstly, we want to be sure that we're identifying biologically relevant categories, which are categories that mean something to the animals themselves, rather than are arbitrary categories made by researchers. Signature whistles provide a useful area to check if our methods are identifying biologically relevant categories. For those of you who are not familiar with dolphins, signature whistles are an individually distinctive whistle that a dolphin develops over its first year of life, and they are used to signify identity, and therefore we know that they mean something to the dolphins themselves and can use this to check how our methods are working. There's also a lack of standardized, reliable, and consistent methods used. So we use the Sarasota Dolphin Whistle Database, which is a database of 269 signature whistles that have been collected annually during health assessments where dolphins are captured temporarily and have a suction cup hydrophone, which you can see on the screen, attached to their melon, and their whistle is recorded. When bottlenose dolphins are isolated, the whistle they produce the most is their signature whistle. That means that we have a very valuable data set of confirmed signature whistles, but also over a long period of time, since they've been annually recorded since 1984. So we have the same individuals producing their signature whistles in different years. So we assess the performance of ART-warp, which is a method that is an unsupervised neural network called ART2, which is an adaptive resonance theory network that categorizes whistles. It also uses dynamic time warping. Bottlenose dolphins are known to change the length of their signature whistles between different utterances, an example of which you can see on the screen. This is a signature whistle produced by one individual at different times, and as you can see, they're very different in length. Dynamic time warping will stretch or squish the whistle when comparing them to try and find the best match. This program has also seen a lot of improvement in recent years through work of our research group. The way ART-warp works is you give it a set of input contours, and it compares these to a set of reference contours, which are the averages of all the whistles in that category. It compares them all until it finds the best match. However, In order to find the best match, you have to set the network with an attention vigilance parameter. This is the level of similarity required between an input whistle, and the reference console for it to be placed in that category. If it doesn't match, it makes a new category. Originally, this was recommended to be 96%, which was determined from signature whistles from 4 captive bottlenose dolphins. However, further research found that this vigilance parameter overestimates in large datasets whistles, and it was then empirically derived with whistles from wild animals to be 91%. However, this still overestimates, and therefore there's uncertainty as to which vigilance parameter to use. So we decided to assess the vigilance parameter for a larger dataset of whistles. We chose 3 shapes, upsweep, arches, and oscillatory whistles, to assess the variety of whistles that are seen in bottlenose dolphins. We then chose 20 signature whistle types for each shape, 30 examples of each signature whistle type, which resulted in a dataset of 1,800 whistles from 60 signature whistle types. We then identified the ideal vigilance parameter for each signature whistle. This was done by running the 30 examples of each signature whistle through ArtWarp with vigilance parameters of 0 to 99% to identify the point at which a signal signature whistle was split into 2 categories by ArtWarp. And the ideal vigilance parameter was taken as 1% below that splitting point. We did this for all our whistles, which you can see in this graph. Each column is a signature whistle type with its ideal vigilance parameter shown. As you can see, there's not that much variation between the different shape types and between the different whistles. So the mode for arch was 94, the mode for oscillatory was 94 and 95, and the mode for upsweep was 96. We then decided to recommend a new vigilance parameter of 95 as this was in the middle of our different modes. Then to test this, we applied this 95% vigilance parameter to our entire dataset of 60 signature whistles. That's important. We want to get 60 categories because that's how many categories there are in this dataset. However, when we ran ArtWarp, we got 112, which is obviously not that great. In ArtWarp, it's practice to remove categories that have single whistles, as this could be aberrant utterances. And when we did this, we got 94 categories with 2 or more whistles, which is slightly better. We then decided to apply the SIG-ID method, which is a method for identifying signature whistles in wild recordings. And this is done so by you have to have a set of 4 repeats of the same signature whistle with whistle intervals between 1 and 10 seconds. So we had 83 categories with 4 or more whistles, which is somewhat closer. But it does indicate that ArtWarp definitely overestimates the number of signature whistles if you don't know how many there are. We then calculated that there was a rate of false negatives of 0.25 and a rate of false positives of 1.4. We then assessed the categorization performance using the normalized information criterion. This compares the categories that they should be in to the categories that they were put in. Past research has found that humans, when they make categories, have an NMI of 0.9 to 0.99, which obviously this is lower than. However, other computerized categorization methods have an NMI of between 0.5 and 0.7. So this is a lot higher than that, and so it's doing a lot better than other computerized categorization methods. We also found that shape type affects categorization success. In this graph, you see each signature whistle type with the small white number indicating how many categories it was split into. And you can see that oscillatory whistles have far more signature whistle types in single categories, and so were overall categorized a lot better. The take-home messages for this project are that you can identify biologically relevant categories for dolphin whistles with a vigilance parameter of 95%, that oscillatory whistles have a higher categorization success, and we do need to be mindful that ArtWarp tends to split whistles into more categories rather than lump them together when using larger data sets. I want to thank my supervisors and the member of my team for help with this research. And also, I'm now using ArtWarp to categorize whistle categories, to make whistle repertoires for different species and compare them within and between species, and currently using it for common dolphin geographic comparisons. You're also welcome to contact me if you have any interest in using ArtWarp, and there's the web address to use ArtWarp on the screen there.
Thank you very much. So we have time for questions, so if you want to ask some, you can.
Thank you very much for a very interesting question. I have a quite technical small question. How did you like for the contouring, how did you do? Do you use like
I trace the whistles manually in
Okay.
PalmGuard using the Rocker package that you can use to do that.
Okay, because I remember Volker he also used Beluga. Do you still use this? Or is
No,
it
so Beluga was what Artpool was created for, and that has created a bit of issues because Beluga outputs a very specific type of output, so we have to convert between them, but we use Rocker for whistles.
Okay, thank you.
No other questions? Okay. Thank you very much, Christina.